Big changes are happening in the DFW housing market right now. And if you've been thinking about buying or selling even in the next year, this update will give you important information you need to make the smartest move possible before the market shifts again. If you're ready to buy or sell right now, check out the links in the description below so you can schedule time on my calendar and talk to me directly. We can set up a call, find out what you're looking for, and go over the process. I'd love to talk to you about that. If you're not ready yet, that's okay. I also have some links below in the description to check out your home's value or download either my buyer or seller's guide completely free. Check those out if you are interested at all. Without further ado, let's dive into this month's market update. For this November 2024 market update, I want to talk about three very important questions that are on everyone's mind. At least it seems like it's on everyone's mind that I'm talking to right now. Question number one, when will mortgage rates finally come down? Question number two, when are home prices going to come down? Question number three, will I even be able to find a house to move into if I decide to move? And stick around later for a bonus at the end of the video. I'm going to talk about a subject that gets brought up all the time, and I'm not tired of hearing about it, but I want to put this one to rest once and for all. Kicking this off was question number one, when will mortgage rates finally come down? So let's dive into this. I got a quote here from Ralph McLaughlin, a senior economist of Realtor.com. He says the trajectory of rates over the coming months will largely be dependent on three key factors. One, the performance of the labor market. Two, the outcome of the presidential election. And three, any possible reemergence of inflationary pressure. Volatility has been the theme of mortgage rates over the past several months. We expect stability to reemerge towards the end of November and into early December. Now, hopefully Ralph is right. I am ready for some more stability with our interest rates. I'm going to show you some charts here in a second. The reports I'm seeing at least show that the labor market hasn't changed a whole lot over the last year, maybe gotten a little bit better. You can debate that, but overall, it hasn't changed significantly over a longer period of time, which is good. We want to see that. Two is the outcome of the presidential election. Now, I don't have a chart for that. At this point, we should all hopefully know who won, whether you voted for him or not. But just the fact that the election is over should hopefully help provide some stability. We have seen a positive change in the last couple of weeks, and I'll show you that here in a second as well. Let's dive into some inflationary news. So it's still not quite where the Fed wants it to be. Obviously, that's this dotted white line, the 2% target. However, it has obviously come down quite a bit. Now, since the 0.5% cut the Fed did a few months ago, interest rates actually came back up, which is not what we want to see. So here's a quick look at what mortgage rates have been doing over the last couple months. So we see coming down from August, we came down into September, and we bottomed out in the low sixes in September here. Ever since then, this is when the Fed did their last rate cut, it jumped back up. And so this little spike was election week. It jumped up, and then the results came in, and it went back down. Popped back up just a little bit, but it's been pretty stable. We're watching this, and what we're seeing, hopefully, and this orange line is actually reporting from Freddie Mac, but what we're hoping is that this just stabilizes and maybe starts a nice slow decline. I would love a nice spike downwards. That would be great, but less volatility is actually good. So here's what's being predicted going into next year. So here's the actual, what we've seen, some of that chart that I just showed you, a little bit more dramatic with this one because it's over a longer period of time. And then this is what everyone is predicting. Now, not everyone is predicting the same rate, but what we can see is a fairly steep decline, hopefully the rest of November into December and January, and then a little bit more of a steady and more stability towards the middle and end of next year. That would be ideal as far as interest rates go. Interest rates are predicted to head down. Are prices going to follow? Well, the first thing you really need to know about prices is prices are semi-dictated by supply and demand. Now, they do follow a lot of those principles. However, this is not a business responding to outward price demand or pressures. These are individuals. They don't always have to sell. And if you are an individual and you will stand to possibly lose money or not make as much as you wanted to, what are you going to do? Probably just stay. And that is one of the things I want to show you here as we go through is why prices haven't come down more than they have and what I do predict will happen with prices going forward. The first thing you have to know about demand in this whole supply and demand equation is that we have more demand than we have supply. That's why prices haven't fallen more than they have. When you look at this population-wise, silent generation and greatest generation obviously are starting to age out. The boomers are starting to also age out. And what you look at is this population. Gen X had almost as many people as the boomers in it, but the millennials and Gen Z have even more people. Now, Gen Z hasn't quite hit their prime home buying years yet, but the millennials are smack right in the middle of it. And a report that I've recently seen is that the millennials only have about 50% home ownership rate. As the millennials keep getting older, there will be some trade up. Some people that already own a home will probably want to buy a nicer or bigger place. As our kids get older, the millennials that currently don't own will most likely buy. We're going to see a large percentage of that population start getting into home ownership, as well as Gen Z starting to enter their prime home buying years as well. So we have a lot of demand. That's one of the first things you have to understand. The second thing is supply. We are historically undersupplied as far as houses go. Click the subscribe button. I'm going to do a video here coming soon on whether you should sell your house and buy a new one, even if you have a 3% mortgage rate. But looking at the current supply issue, this chart here is showing builders and how many building permits are issued per 1,000 households. That's what we're looking at. And so this is a really good measure of not only just how many building starts there are, but actually compared to the current population. You can see we peaked here in the 50s, or shot up in the 40s after World War II. We peaked in the 50s. And since then, it's been a pretty steady decline. We've had some peaks and valleys, but it's been a pretty steady decline compared to the actual population. So step number one is builders have not kept up with supply. Really, there's some decent reasons for that, but at the same time, we are still in a supply shortage, but a demand high. So you can see if you're following the basic economics here, high demand, low supply, prices are going to remain steady or go up in that situation. What is going on with these builders? They're starting to catch up. Builders are still a little gun shy because of what happened in the housing crash in 07 and 08. So they peaked here. They were way overbuilt, and a lot of them really lost a ton of money with all these homes just sitting and not selling. So they dropped their production dramatically. Now, they've been catching up over the last couple of years, well, last decade really, but it's still not enough to keep up with supply. Because while this looks good, and it looks like a lot more houses are coming on the market, another fun graph here is, again, comparing the building of housing compared to the population. And so while, yes, we are building more, and this graph is trending back up, it's not catching up quite quick enough. Now, if this continues, we will cross back over at some point, meaning that the builders are starting to catch up with the supply needs. But it's not predicted to do that for at least another 5 to 8 years. There would have to be a dramatic increase in building, and there's just logistical problems with that, with labor and supply, to pick up production that much that fast. It's just not feasible. I wouldn't count on the builders really catching up anytime soon to meet that, and really what people hope is bring prices down because we're oversupplied. It's more than likely just not going to happen anytime real soon. Wrapping all this up, you can see that home prices are expected to go up. So this is a quick chart on what people are actually predicting here. You can see that there is a wide range of predictions here. And this will, of course, vary based on your locality. Here in DFW, I think that we're actually looking somewhere in the lower 2s or 3s, probably somewhere close to average over here. I've seen predictions anywhere from 1 to about 4%, so I would probably range somewhere in that 2 to 3% across the entire market. But even in our market, because it's so big, there will be places that we might see 6 to 8% appreciation, and places we might still see negative appreciation. It's hard to say. However, what we can say is, as a whole, on a macro level, we should see prices going up. So now that you know what prices are doing, we know that mortgage rates are going to hopefully come down. Prices will be stable and go up a little bit, more than likely. Will you even be able to find a home? Why would I even want to move if I can't find what I'm looking for? I get this question a lot, and I think it is mainly born of the frustration of still like 2021, 2022, when there was a lot of competition out there and it was hard to find the house that you want. If you haven't already watched some, I've done several videos on the inventory levels. I'm going to link right up here to my deep dive videos. I'll put that there, and there'll be a link in the description below, and where I really dive into inventory. But I'm going to touch on this because that's what we're really talking about here, is our levels of inventory. How many homes are available? We are at a historical low, which may shock you because I'm about to show you a different number here. But what we're at here is a historical low based, again, on the number of homes in the market. And when I say total market, again, I'm talking about every single home that even isn't for sale. If you lump all those into one category and you divide that by how many homes are for sale, you get these numbers here. And we peaked in 07, 08 around 4% of homes for sale versus the total market. Right now, we're even lower. And this orange line here is the total turnover rate, meaning we just don't have a ton of homes available based on the number of buyers that could potentially be in the market. That's not a great sign. However, we are at an extremely high level of inventory. So up here, what we're seeing is a little over 40,000 homes for sale in the DFW market. The new construction homes that you can see from the other charts I've shown you have been rising steadily over the last couple of years. What I'm really excited about is resale homes. What we're looking at here is getting close to a record number of resale homes in the market. In fact, this is the highest number of homes that we've had for sale in DFW ever. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Now, here's that same chart, but blown up over about 20 years. And you can see even at the peak of 07 and 08, we barely touched 20,000 homes. And then it rose steadily from 2015 all the way up until the pre-pandemic levels. And we topped out right there. Pandemic hit and something crazy happened, and everyone not only pulled their home off the market, but a lot of them were selling. And so we had this crazy dip here, but now we're back to another peak. We have more homes for sale right now than we ever have in DFW. Now, as a big percentage of our current population, that may not be a huge number. But I want you to take solace in the fact that there is more on the way. Builders are building more. People are gaining more confidence in the market. There will be homes to buy for you to find. And hitting this peak where we have more homes than ever gives buyers more choice than they've ever had. Now, put another link up here for my last market update video when I was talking about why it is such a good time for buyers right now. I realize it's the holiday season and probably you don't want to move. However, if you have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen, if you're one of the people that started home buying last year and got out because of the interest rates, now may be one of the best times to buy that we've seen in a very long time. And as we get into next year, that window is closing 100%. It's bonus time. So thank you for sticking around. I want to talk to you about whether or not the market is going to crash. I still get this question. Just the other day, I was talking to somebody. I was picking a smoothie up, and the guy saw I was a real estate agent and asked me, he's like, hey man, so when do you think the market's going to crash? Short answer is it's not. I don't believe it is. Could I be wrong? Sure. I'm wrong all the time. Just ask my wife. However, the data does not point towards a market crash. Now, here's the really important part. All joking aside, we're all about to be around friends and family over the holidays. Hopefully, you're going to have some discussions. And if your house is anything like mine, it almost always gets steered to real estate because that's what I do. I just steer conversations towards real estate. But what I don't want to happen is fear and misinformation to cause someone to not purchase a home when they could have. Homeownership is fantastic. It helps build wealth. It helps plant roots in a community. It provides safety, better education. There's a lot of benefits to homeownership, and I don't want someone to miss out on this over misinformation. And so I want to show you the next couple slides why the market is not going to crash. And first up is a slide showing you why it might. No, I know. I just talked about why it wouldn't crash, but I want to show this because this is very interesting data. And this is something people might bring up if they were trying to argue, well, the market's going to crash. Well, what we can see here is that student loan debt, other debt, credit card debt, and auto loan debt are all increasing. That's a big chunk of the pie here. However, the bigger chunk is this big orange chunk, mortgage debt. Now, we all know our mortgages are normally the biggest chunk of our budget. And what we're seeing here is a historic level of mortgage debt. Now, a lot of people have been using this data as clickbait to try to say that the market's going to crash. Let me show you why that's not true. First up, what you have to understand about all of that mortgage debt is that 84% of mortgaged homes have a rate below 6%. So I showed you earlier about the rates and where they were and how they haven't been under 6% in a very long time. You can even see there's a huge chunk here that's in the 3 to 4% range and a pretty decent amount that is under 3% mortgage rate. These people are not hurting at the moment as far as their mortgage payment goes. So even if a large percentage of debt is the mortgage debt that you see in this chart here, it's looking at a good interest rate. Now here's the other thing that you really have to understand about what causes a crash. When you're looking at why markets crash, it goes through this chart right here behind me. When you look at 07 and 08, this is why markets crash. This green line represents owner's equity and the orange line is their mortgage. When you have less equity than your mortgage, so you owe more than the house is actually worth to you, that's a bad combination for the real estate market. And that's why the market crashed. There's a lot more that goes into that. There's been movies about it. Now, what happens as bigger and bigger and bigger? And yes, we have 13 trillion in mortgage debt at the moment as a nation, but we also have 35 trillion in. We have a huge amount of equity. So low mortgage interest rates combined with high equity mean that the crash is not coming. This shows you again how the home mortgage debt was higher than the homeowner equity and how much different that is today. Those things combined, they mean no crash. Will prices dip? Possibly. As market forces ebb and flow, there's always been a little bit ups and downs and those kind of things in the value of homes. But historically, we have consistently seen the home values go up. There's been ups and there's been downs. But if you look over a 6-month or 1-year timeline, prices are up. Don't look at something like home price values month to month or even really quarter to quarter. What you really want to track is year to year. And if it's flat or going up, that's good. You as a buyer, which the worst thing that can happen is that goes down. That's why you don't really want a market crash if you're a